Hey guys, Ramsey here. Welcome to another video. Tonight we have a late night insight video. It's been a while since we've had a chance to do one of these. I figured now that the clocks are springing ahead that it would be a perfect time to knock out a fragrance tailor-made for spring by the house of Frederic Malle, and it is called Eau de Magnolia. Now, you can see Carlos Benaim's name right there, probably one of America's greatest living perfumers, as the Frederic Malle website says. And Frederic Malle samples have to be different, so they are painted, red. Eau de Magnolia came out in 2014, so it is a decade old. I can't believe that. The note listing is Calabrian bergamot, magnolia, vetiver, cedarwood, amber, patchouli, grapefruit, lemon, and oak moss. And according to the Frederic Malle website, it says that unlike other white flowers that exude opulence, Magnolia's scent is citrus fresh, carried by a woody undercurrent. A magnified citric balance of bergamot, lemon, and grapefruit tunnels into focus toward darker notes of oak moss and patchouli and an olfactory representation of sunshine and its shadow. Okay, so there you have it. First of all, a beautiful green floral opening. If you're a fan of traditional floral fragrances, this is very well done. And if I didn't see the note listing, I would guess that there's probably some sort of cosmetic like Lily of the Valley, very soft, powdery accord, okay? White floral. And I've been reviewing a lot of Bortnikov fragrances lately. If you've been following my channel, you know that there are a ton of Bortnikov reviews that have been put up over the last month or so. And one of Dmitry Bortnikov's favorite notes is the Magnolia, one of his favorite floral notes to use. He loves using Magnolia. And so I have tons of experience with the Magnolia flower. I've done a lot of work on fragrances that have that Magnolia note, and instantly you can pick up that Magnolia type accord here with this very soft floral fruity touches. And when it's blended with that slightly sour Calabrian bergamot and grapefruit combination, although I get more bergamot, but the grapefruit I think kind of balances everything out. It is beautiful. It is, like they say, sunshine. It's kind of indicative of the warmer weather to come. It's like seeing signs on the wind coming. You see all these things that kind of spring is in the air. The buds on the trees are beginning to bloom. The flowers are starting to push through the dirt. The green grass is starting to sprout, where the grass was brown. Now it's starting to get green. And it's just I would say that Eau de Magnolia is a very refreshing, fresh, soft, musky, powdery, floral, very undertones of a season-specific wear. I could totally see someone who was into wearing fragrances in a particular season, which I am not. I love to wear whatever I want, whenever I want. But if you're someone who's like, okay, it's spring, I'm pulling out my spring fragrances, Eau de Magnolia is a perfect spring scent, in my opinion. It's absolutely tailor-made for spring. And so let's talk about kind of the pros and cons, because I mentioned some of the good, this harbinger of warmer weather to come, this beautiful citrusy, fresh floral opening. And the cons, there are a couple cons. So instantly, the first thing you're going to notice with the citrus accord is that lemon. And if you're someone who, like my brother from across the pond, my brother from another mother, Rich Mitch, if you hear the word lemon and you begin to shiver because you know that lemon sometimes turn to bleach on your skin, or you're worried that it's going to have that floor cleaner like smell, this walks right up to that line. I have to say, it really does. It gets damn close to that floor cleaner like smell with the lemon. It doesn't cross the line, in my opinion, so I don't think it's fair to say that this is a, floor cleaner lemon-like smell. And I think the main accord is the Calabrian bergamot, which is slightly sour and bitter and rindy and very fresh, very invigorating, okay? Like you're literally, instead of spraying yourself with perfume, imagine just spritzing bergamot on yourself. Just very uplifting and citrusy and fresh and all that stuff. And the citruses are definitely going to jump out. And the first thing I thought of was, wow, this wears like a Creed. In fact, this is probably the most Creed Frederic Malle I've ever smelled. Hands down, the most Creed Frederic Malle. And I reckon it's because of the way that the citruses are done and the freshness. And, you know, many Creeds are known for their sort of fresh, uplifting, you know, very easy to wear by anybody. That's why it's a niche house that many people say should be a good starter niche house for people who come from the designer world and going to niche. Creed is like usually the first stop because they're easy to digest. There's nothing super crazy about many of their scents. And you know, I say that this Frederic Malle smells like a Creed in the kindest way possible, because what Creed does well, and usually when they hit it out of the park, is when they're making scents that stick to that Creed DNA with the freshness and all that stuff. And this is Frederic Malle creating a very similar type of scent, meaning it's very fresh, it's very radiant. You know, it is, like the blurb said, sunshine and shadows, the perfect representation, and it will really elevate you. I feel like this is a fragrance that, worn in the correct time, the sun shining on you, you're getting your vitamin D, you're out in the sun, you're around people, your health is good, your mental state is good. You know, it's just kind of one of those things, and this is like the topper. It just is a perfect for a perfect scenario type situation. And so for me, that sort of elevating and uplifting and accord is one of the best aspects of Eau de Magnolia. Now, the floral accord, I will tell you though, that the floral accord also walks on that line of being a bit too much for me. So just like the bergamot walks right up, or sorry, the lemon walks right up to that line, the floral accord also walks right up to that line. It doesn't cross it, but it gets damn close, where sometimes I'm like, man, this fragrance, you know, it's funny because this fragrance is a little bit of a give and take, because sometimes I smell it and I'm like, wow, the citruses are so, and to be fair, I've only worn this once before, so I can't sit up here and say I'm an expert with Eau de Magnolia. Somebody sent me this and I think there's only a couple drops left anyway, but enough for me to wear it to bed once before. This is the second time I've had a chance to wear it to bed, but I just figured with the clock springing forward today would be a perfect time to review Eau de Magnolia. And so, but sometimes I smell it and I'm like, wow, for a brand who, or a fragrance named Eau de Magnolia, this thing is very heavy on the citruses. And then sometimes I smell it and I think, wow, when the florals do come out, they're a little much for me. So it's a weird dichotomy of kind of give and take. Sometimes I feel like the floral accord could be amped up more. Other times when I smell it, I'm like, man, the florals are too much. And it doesn't seem to go in the middle. It just seems to be either too much over here or too much over here, if that makes sense. And so, you know, when I smell the floral notes and I get a good whiff of them, and that borderline white floral kind of hits you, and I think it's too much. That is probably one of the biggest downsides for me in Eau de Magnolia. I like the smell of Magnolia. I almost feel like some of those Bortnikoffs do the Magnolia Accord better, to be honest with you. I'm sorry. It's just it's kind of a weird give and take, because on one hand, you pay a perfumer like Carlos Benaim to create an Accord, and give you something beautiful and maybe even present something that won't be found in nature. But on the other hand, it's so hard to compete with the smell of natural, you know, the actual note. And I'm not saying that real Magnolia is not used here. I'm sure it is. But in what percentage, I have no idea. My guess is with an artisanal brand like Bortnikoff that maybe he's using Magnolia's flowers in bigger concentrations. There's no IFRA regulations, so you have bigger concentrations of... I like fragrances that are heavy on the nose. You know, I like fragrances that wear heavy on the nose. That's the other downside with this one, is very rarely, I think, would this be a fragrance that would go, man, I want to reach for this because I am craving Eau de Magnolia. I don't think that would ever happen. It's not my kind of fragrance. It's really more of a season-specific or event-specific fragrance. Like if you were going out in public and, you know, you were going to go be at an air show or outside, or I don't know, go to Six Flags or something, and you wanted to have something that went with the weather, and that would be an idea. Or go to a ball game and you're sitting outside. That's a great example of a time I would think to wear something like this. But would I sit around going, man, I really want to, I'm really craving smelling and wearing Eau de Magnolia? Probably not, unfortunately. So it's a pleasant fragrance. It's an uplifting fragrance. It's very well done. But to be honest, I think it's kind of at the bottom of my Frederic Malle wish list. Would I wear this if I owned a bottle? Yes, I would. I think it's a good fragrance. But would I buy a bottle? No, I don't think so. I think this is going to be bottom of the Frederic Malle wish list. There's so many other Frederic Malles that I would think I would go for first, in my opinion. Probably numero uno right now would be Heaven Can Wait, which I still have not smelled, but that would be one I'd almost blind buy just because of what I've heard about it. And I'm a blind buyer. I tell people not to, but I actually do enjoy blind buying. So, and the other thing is I have an entire collection of creeds. And for me, like for example, I just reviewed Green Irish Tweed on the channel within the last couple weeks. March 1st I reviewed it. It's only March 9th now, March 10th. So 10 days ago, I reviewed Green Irish Tweed on the channel. And I'm not saying that this smells like Green Irish Tweed, but this is I would wear Green Irish Tweed in a similar situation, if that makes sense. So they don't smell the same, but they both serve the same purpose. So that's a problem for Eau de Magnolia, I would say. And since I want to be neutral and I want to give my unbiased, commentary, sometimes I just want to give my personal opinion, but sometimes I like to give my unbiased commentary. And my opinion, fair and balanced, as fair and balanced as I can be. This does have some bits and pieces of I just ruined it. Cristalle by Chanel. So if you are familiar with Chanel's Cristalle, I have a vintage bottle, a short ingredient bottle from the 90s of Chanel Cristalle. It's absolutely stunning, and I would probably wear that over this. And there are some similarities between the two. There's no doubt about it. If you smell Cristalle and then you smell this, you'll definitely get similarities. I think my bottle of Cristalle from the 90s, from memory, has more of like this cold cigarette accord. And I don't think, even as good as Frederic Malle is, I don't think that he is able to recreate that cool, cold, calculating, almost like, professional, serious, no nonsense, cold, smoky iris thing that's going on in Cristalle by Chanel. I think that this has lots of similarities in smell, but I prefer Cristalle in my opinion. I think that's the better fragrance, and I think that does with what both fragrances are just trying to do better. So yes. Oh, the other thing I will say is, as the fragrance continues to dry down, more of the quote-unquote masculine notes start to come out. So you start to get the vetivers, you start to get more of the cedar. The patchouli is really kind of the anchor. That's the heaviest. The patchouli is the heaviest note in here, along with the vetiver and the base. And those are the more masculine notes that begin to come out into the dry down more, especially that cedar. So you get this woody vetiver type thing. The vetiver is not super heavy, but it definitely is kind of like a green anchor. To the top, I mentioned there's a little bit of a green type opening, and you get that green vetiver in the base as well. And it does start to feel better blended as the fragrance dries. The sharpness of the lemon, which sometimes, like I said, walks right up to that line, subsides, and it feels better blended. It feels like, it becomes a little bit more masculine. But it's interesting because it's a strange one. Like I said, this fragrance is a little bit of a dichotomy, because on one side, in the opening, let's say the first couple hours, right? The first couple hours, it almost feels like with the floral accord, which never truly goes away, but it does, I would say, settle more. The floral accord just feels a little bit better blended as it dries down. And it's like I said, it's funny because in the opening, the first couple hours, I thought that maybe this leaned a little bit too feminine. But in the dry down, I think maybe I could easily see how a woman who's used to traditional, a perfume who is traditionally marketed towards women, may look at this and say, this is a little bit too masculine into the dry down. I just think this fragrance is kind of caught in no man's land. The men may not want to wear it because of the floral opening bit. The women may not want to wear it because of the masculine type dry down. The fragrance connoisseurs may not want to wear it because of the similarities with Cristalle. And if you own vintage Cristalle, I think that just does this style better. And if you truly love Magnolia, I really think that Bortnikov has better Magnolia accords than what Frederic Malle's offering here. that's just one Ram's opinion, okay? So for all you Frederic Malle lovers, please don't feel like I'm stabbing you in the back here. This is just my personal opinion. I actually really like the brand of Frederic Malle, and I think that they do some fantastic stuff. And there will be more Frederic Malle reviews to come, I promise, and there will be some good ones. So yes, Eau de Magnolia by Carlos Benaim, Frederic Malle, 2014, 10 years old, unbelievable. Feels like this just came out. And I'm very thankful to my perfume god person who sent this to me to allow these type of reviews to happen. So thank you again. If you have experience with Eau de Magnolia, do let me know. Love to hear your thoughts. Cheers, guys. Have a great night. Catch you next time. Bye-bye.